Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Somos Mas, the official podcast of Somos Mas NM, and your source for the latest news and notes on the Mexico United and the New Mexico Runners. My name, of course, is Zeth Bidoff. Joining me this evening, King Earl. Did you get a promotion?
No, but they forgot to include me in the Money in the Bank or the King of the Ring tournament. So
You're just getting left out all over the place. WrestleMania, Backlash, King of the Ring. When are you going to get your shot, Earl? Or is it going to take for Dom to stop cheating on mommy?
I mean, at this point, I might have to become Dom.
Obviously, Earl and I talking about the upcoming or recent WWE matches and the upcoming what's next? Clash at the Castle?
Clash at the Castle.
Yeah, Clash at the Castle. There you go. I was fairly certain that's what was coming up next, but it's I don't know. I don't know how I feel about someone cheating on mommy. It's one of those things. I mean, Earl, you've been in that position before. Obviously you've equated yourself to Dirty Dom here on the show. Why would Dirty Dom be cheating on mommy?
I mean, it's all storyline. So I really think it's a Liv Morgan thing and not really Dirty Dom. I think it's Liv Morgan forcing herself into the equation and building for a great storyline when Rhea Ripley finally returns.
All right, well, we shall see what happens with that. Obviously, some big PLEs coming up. You've got
and to answer your question, the easiest way to answer your question is it's Liv Morgan. I mean,
I get it. I do get it. So, Justin over in chat because Liv. Well, there you go. But I will say this. I will say nothing is quite as good as perfection. And of course, in May, New Mexico United has been perfect, having gone undefeated throughout the month of May. In fact, having not lost or drawn in the month of May, and they've overtaken Sacramento for first place in the Western Conference, still with a match in hand. I mean, Earl, let's go ahead and go back to Saturday night. San Antonio comes to town. This is a place and a matchup that United has not fared well in the past. United has not beaten San Antonio since 2021. We've not beaten them at the Lab since 2019. And this was a match that you and I both predicted wins. Jacob predicted a win. I think most of the chat thought a win was going to happen here. But San Antonio is still one of those sides where you just never quite know what's going to happen with them because they are talented, and Alan Marcina tends to get a lot out of his club. Coming into this, despite your prediction, did you have any sort of trepidation about the history of this matchup at the Lab?
Well, I mean, I said it last week. I mean, I think the numbers, I'd have to pull my notes from last week. Because yes, I saved those, by the way. I think the numbers were 9 out of the last 10 we had lost or drew to San Antonio. It was a pretty crazy high number. So even though I said 2-0, there was that slight thought that there was a chance that we could possibly draw or lose again to San Antonio. I mean, they're the ones that have had our number regardless of who you play. I mean, you look at the rivalries, and I'm going to bring it up. I know we're 6 minutes in. I'm already talking about rivalry. Most people say El Paso. Most people say Phoenix. You look at those matches, the on the pitch play and supporter section group play. Yeah, you could say there's rivalry there. But when you look at the stats, I mean, you have to look at the team that's beat us almost every time that we play them at San Antonio. So Harry probably likes that conversation because obviously San Antonio is getting their name in the picture. But at the end of the day, I think San Antonio definitely should have a conversation with who their rivals are as well, because we're right there with them. I would put San Antonio in the same picture of El Paso and Phoenix of being one of our rivals.
That's an interesting take, and this really has been one of the closest series we've had. When you look at it, and I would be really interested to get the take of those in chat, or even if you're listening after the fact, is San Antonio a rival? I mean, you look at the record going in 5-5-1. We have historically done better on the road against San Antonio than we have at home. But it's been a while since we've really even been competitive with them in a realistic sense. So to see United come out at home with the run that we've had, with the win in the Open Cup on Tuesday night, I would say there was some concern about this match, with fitness levels and how are we going to respond? How would we, come out if we got, punched in the teeth first? And to Josh's point over in the chat, the lab finally is a fortress. And it certainly feels that way early on. I mean, when you look at this matchup, Earl, a 2-1 win at home, United gets punched in the teeth to start. We really didn't do anything in the first 10, 15 minutes to kind of stake our claim to this match. What do you think happened after that first goal that we conceded to where we really just locked down that back third?
It's tough to say because, I mean, I wasn't at the match. I was here at home watching the match. I wanted to go to the match. I thought about it. Told myself I'm going to go to it. But then it just didn't work out. It was last minute that I decided I actually wanted to go. I actually wanted to drive the 2 hours out that way. So it was already 4 o'clock by the time I thought about it. So I decided just to stay home and watch it here. I'm glad I did. I really am, because I got to see a better view of what was going on. But when we got punched in the mouth, that's exactly what it was. It was a punch in the mouth. It was like, hey, by the way, gotcha. It was San Antonio saying that they, even though they've lost a lot, more than we're used to seeing them lose for sure. Even though they've lost a lot, they said that they still have their name and their stake at what they can be. And it was obvious what they can be. They showed it for sure. But then we just had to regroup, play the game that we know how to play. And at this point, I mean, call me crazy, but I'm no longer afraid of a deficit on the scoreboard. I mean, if we're down 1-0, 2-0, I'm not worried. We're going to fight to come back. I mean, we saw it a few times now where we get down within the next 5-10 minutes, we come back and we score. So they score in the 21st minute. And really what that first goal was a filling out. Are they actually here to play? Or are they here to play spoils? And that's exactly what happened. Is they showed that, yeah, they're here to play spoil. They're not here to play. They're not here to win. They're here to play spoil. Whether it's a draw or a win for them, they'll take either one. But really what happened is they scored and we decided, okay, you know what? Now it's time for us to play. Let's step it up and let's do our thing. And it showed with Hursty being up for goal of the week, which I think he was actually winning last time I checked. But it shows that we can score pretty much at will when we want by whoever we want.
Yeah, you saw the goal there from Nanan Husso, 10th goal scorer in league play for the club this year. And, no one has more goals than Greg Hurst. He obviously gets a second here in just a few minutes. But this is, one of those moments like this, you see this shot right here, to where it's 2 impact plays by Greg Hurst. And this is a guy who I think all of us can concede he was basically gone for most of last season. He wasn't locked in. He wasn't an impact player. He wasn't what he had been when he was in Phoenix. But you watch the way he's played so far this year: 5 goals in league play, a handful of other goals, in Open Cup, and this is what we expected to see over the past several seasons from our number 9s.
So
Yeah.
not to cut you off,
Mhm.
I'm sure you have a great point right now, but I'm thinking back, especially to last season, where Hursty started the first couple games over Mondo, and Hursty shined.
Mhm.
And then Mondo came in, took back the spotlight, and then we never saw Hursty again. And when we did see him, it was few and far between, and he was a shell of what he could be. This year, he has that spotlight, and he's leading the team in goals. Crazy take here. I'm wondering if there was a little bit of sour grapes, bitter apples going on last season, to where Hursty was told, "Hey, you're gonna be our guy," and then Mondo came in and took that spotlight and took that fruit from him.
It could be. That could very easily be the case. I think there's also the possibility that he came in not necessarily in the sort of playing shape that we need a 9 to be here at in Albuquerque, and that's why you see guys like Mondo and Brucey have the impact that they did. But we talked about it way back at the beginning of the season. Hursty has slimmed down. He's trimmed down. He looks pacier. He looks more agile on and off the ball. And so maybe that's what it is. And maybe he's gotten himself into a position where he feels, he's finally feeling confident. He's finally feeling like he is the 9 for this team. And confidence is infectious. And all of these guys are playing confident football right now, which is huge for any club, but particularly for us as a club. Historically, we've tended to have stretches where that confidence isn't there, and you see it reflected in the results. But here, like you said earlier, we're this is not a club that quits. This is not a club that gives up despite any goal difference, despite being at a deficit. And it's really fun to watch these guys and see what they're doing right now, especially against some of the competition that we've seen this year.
Yeah, and it's not even like they score and we stress about it. They score and we're already asking, okay, when are we scoring next? When is it going to happen for us?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's almost a guarantee. I mean, other than the second legs of all of our East Coast trips, we score in every game. I want to say we scored in Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
It was 2-1, I think it was. So yeah, we score and we have a tendency to score. So that's my point right there. Is it's not a matter of if we're going to score, it's when it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. If we're healthy and if we're fully rested. I mean, right now, obviously, we're not. Well, in this match, we weren't fully rested because we just came off a trip to New York and then back. But I mean, we have the depth to where we can do things and make deep runs and not stress about falling off competition play. Before, in years past, we were stressed about that. And that's why I've hated Open Cup so much, because we do so good in Open Cup. We do incredible in Open Cup. And then the cherry hits the fan, and that's where we're stuck at, is we put all of our grapes and all of our cherries in one basket over in the Open Cup, and we cannot thrive in competition play.
Yeah, definitely a lot of things to look at. I think Quill has done a really good job of managing the rotation, managing the legs, managing the health of the guys. Yes, we still have a lot of injuries at this point, but you talk about the depth. And here we're going to talk about Abdi Muhammad here in just a few minutes. But this is a team we seem to have the legs no matter what the match is. And there was a moment in the broadcast on Saturday, I'm sure you caught it, where they were talking about how Quill was specifically looking for guys who could come into this type of environment, not just the lab, but also the environment of Albuquerque and the elevation, and be able to play. What do you think about that as a strategy of recruiting players? And why do you think Quill has done so well at that when Zach and Troy did not?
I can't say why Quill is doing so much better. Obviously Troy, he was great. Zach kind of got thrown to the wolves and he had to build his own kind of in a hurry. So I think I like what Quill is doing recruiting wise. He wants to make sure that the guys he brings in are going to be able to handle the heat, handle the humidity, because believe it or not, Albuquerque gets humid. Handle the stupid traffic, because it's such a small, big city that the traffic is atrocious. But then also handle the hunger from fans. I mean, Albuquerque, I would put Albuquerque up there with any top-level sports team, top-level sports city, because of what we have here. I mean, even when you go to a Lobos game, 4-10, I think they go 4-8, whatever the hell they do. University Stadium is still packed. You're still pulling 10,000 people, 14,000 people at University Stadium watching a football game where the Lobos are going to lose. So that's kind of it's a good segue also, because I was a little bummed out actually with Albuquerque fans, because at the time we were sitting second in the league, second in the West. But yet we draw 7,000 or 8,000 on a Saturday night.
I get that.
It was then told to me that it is holiday weekend, and so I don't know. I get that too, but
I mean, yes, I think holiday weekend has something to do with it. I also, saw a question about it over in the Discord, and I also kind of chalked up to the fact that we were expecting a poor weather afternoon and evening, because there was a high expectation of extremely gusty winds, and we still saw it. I don't think it was as bad at game time, but it was 20, 30 mile an hour winds for much of the afternoon. So I get it. And yes, the holiday travel is kind of a disappointing draw for only 8.5, but I do still think it is a decent enough draw. I think but again, you're coming up on the end of the school year, Saturday night match, decent enough weather. I mean, I think the club would have liked to have seen 10, but yeah, Saturday it did feel low, but the energy was still there, which I think was a good thing. And I think the players fed off of that, and I think you could feel it even through the television broadcast.
Oh yeah, definitely you could.
Yeah, so it's I get it. I'm thinking here the next few home matches, I do think we see a bit better home attendance, and to that point though, with the club playing as well as it is right now, attendance tends to trend based off how the team is doing. And at this point, I mean, I would have to think that, especially with the summer months coming up, that we're going to see larger crowds than what we saw Saturday night.
I can't wait to get back to the 15,000 crowds.
Yeah. That would be
those
really fun
were
to
the days.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Earl. Obviously, we talked about already. United comes from behind, 2-1 win. Outside of and Josh, we'll get to that here in a minute. That's a great point. Outside of the matches to Charleston and Tampa, and this kind of ties together a couple different points here that we wanted to make on tonight's show. Another 1-goal win in the league. Is it concerning that we're racking up so many 1-goal results, or do you think that it doesn't really matter as long as we're winning?
I said it a couple weeks back. A football coach of mine once said, "It doesn't matter if you win by 1 point or 1,000 points. A win's a win." I know a lot of soccer heads look at goal differential as something that should be kept an eye on. It was brought up on the broadcast as well this past Saturday. But I want to say it was David Weesey Carl, good friend of the show. I want to say he put it on Facebook that at the end of the day, goal differential is the 5th tiebreaker. So at this point, who cares? I mean, Mudef, you say it best. A win's a win. Justin, 3 points is 3 points. I mean, you guys all have my sentiment. I mean, it's a broken record here. At the end of the day, exactly like they said, a win's a win. It doesn't matter if it's by 1 or by 1,000. As long as we're taking 3 points and climbing the table, that's all that matters. I mean, there's not much we can climb now where we're at. But I mean, when you look at the goal differential being 5th tiebreaker, I don't know if we've ever in the 5-6 years that we've been part of this mayhem, if we've ever had to look at goal differential.
Yeah, it really hasn't ever come into play. I think there was a concern or a look at it at the end of last season to see where things might end up. But, I agree. A win is a win. It is nice to have those multi-goal wins, but, I will gladly take, 15 1-goal wins compared to, 6 or 7 2 to 3 goal wins. Because ultimately it's about the points. It's about the points. So it's about where you're at in the standings. And realistically, it's highly unlikely that goal differential is going to make a big difference. You're looking at 1 spot or 2, like 1 or 2 spots, I should say, and that's it. When it comes down to goal differential, with it being so far down the importance, I would much rather take those wins than anything else.
And real quick, we had a couple questions come in on the chat. From Mudef, is David Weesey Carl still working for the club? He's been doing a lot of broadcasting. Yes, Mudef, David Weesey Carl is the president of or vice president of something. Essentially, he's the vice president of just being a total badass. I'm gonna put it out there. So yes, David is still with the team. The team is a very small family-oriented base, pretty much.
Vice president of media and impact.
Okay. Essentially, vice president being a badass. Is what it boils down to. So yeah, and on the broadcast, you'll hear David every once in a while. You'll hear Tyler every week. Tyler's also a member of the front office staff. So you'll hear familiar New Mexico United voices on the broadcast. And then Josh Gonzalez, a win's a win. If you win by 1, it means that it was a hard-fought game, and you earned that win. A win by 1,000 means you may not have earned anything and just skated through the match. I mean, you're not wrong, but at the end of the day, it's 3 points. Still, I would love to see us have a good, solid Wrecking Crew win at some point. We've been calling for it for 2 years now. Spoiler alert, we might get it this weekend if you go with Earl's prediction.
Quickly, Tyler Ortega, director of ticketing, as well as play-by-play broadcaster for the club. But yeah, to the point, David Weesey Carl has been filling in for some guys who have had some time off and some other obligations. That's why he's been stepping into the broadcasts in recent weeks. But even though he's on the broadcast, he is still working for the club. Not just on the broadcast itself, but he is answering text messages from people like yours truly and other media members, as well as working with the game day staff and the game day preparation. So David is running around like a chicken with his head cut off right up until kickoff on the
Oh,
broadcast.
no. Right up until about 10:30 at night.
Well, yes, yeah. To be fair, and until the match is over and folks are heading out, David.
And even
is,
then, we're still not
going
sure
to-
what he does then. We're still pretty sure he runs around. I'm thinking when he gets in his car and gets home is when he finally can turn it off.
Yep, that's probably about right. At some point, we'll have to ask his wife to see if she can confirm as to whether or not David ever actually turns off for a little while. So, before I move on from San Antonio, I have to ask man of the match.
This is tough because there's a couple of them. Obviously, Hursty getting the goal of the week, potentially, and making a huge impact, doing what he did with his pass into the box, his goal from about 85 million miles away. Yeah, so he's still leading.
I mean, look, I love Hursty's goal, but an Olympico.
I mean,
that's
it's
hard to
tough.
vote against. Yeah.
And then Justin says it too. I mean, Nikki with the save.
Yeah.
At the crossbar.
Yeah.
At the goalpost. So I mean, there was a few of them, but essentially the one I would have to boil it down to is Nanan Hasu, which I know that's a cheap cop out, but it's really not. I mean, if you watch the match and you take out everyone but Hasu, he's still doing incredible things. You see him all over. You see him up and down, scoring goals, attempting goals in front of the curse, almost making that goal, by the way. So, I mean, I would have to go with Nanan Hasu.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against that. I mean, there's, like you said, there's a number of guys that you can certainly put in that conversation for Saturday night. I think Nikki had a really good game. Nikki's save was unbelievable. Header off the line to save a sure goal. And I mean, realistically, that was the last best shot that they had.
This is going to be a very controversial take. Can we talk about how good Chris Gloucester was?
I go for
it. Week after week after week, you can find us here talking about how Gloucester's not the guy, or Gloucester needs improvement, Gloucester needs this, Gloucester needs that. I don't know if there's something I can say about Gloucester this week. He was where he needed to be. He was making impactful moves. And I don't know if I could... you can almost put him in like most improved for the week.
Probably, yeah. I can't argue with that. This was probably the best performance we've seen out of him in a number of weeks.
Since week 1, I think.
It's entirely possible. I'm trying to think back. I don't remember a better performance out of him in between here and there, but yeah, no, he had a really good night as well. But yeah, it's, I will say that we did make some defensive adjustments because we were giving up a lot of space on the edge of the box, and particularly on the right side of our defense early in the match. But we made some adjustments. We shut that down. And a lot of that had to do with Chris Gloucester, him playing out there. I feel like, he really did well out on that right side. And really put together a strong performance. So, hats off to him for a great night. Hats off to the rest of the club. But yeah, I mean, they say you could throw a number of names out there. Like I said, Nikki had a great night. Nanan, who had a great night. Another guy who I want to talk about before, and it's going to kind of segue into our next little bit, is Abdi Muhammad. Let's talk about this guy. New Mexico United has been phenomenal with their 25-day signings. You look at who we've brought in the past on short-term contracts. And now here we have Abdi Muhammad, who has come in and played every minute of every match he's been in since he joined the club. And Saturday night was the 25th day of that contract. And we heard Coach Quill talk about it last week. We heard him talk about, how well he had played. He kind of hinted at good things to come for him. And we got the official announcement today that Abdi Muhammad has been extended through the end of the season by the club. And once again, credit to Itamar Kanan and Coach Quill and the recruiting that they're doing and the scouting that they're doing. But to bring in Abdi in this moment and to see the level that he's playing at, and the fact that we're not even talking about Kalen Ryden anymore at this point. Like, Abdi Muhammad has come in and just been absolutely incredible at the back.
It's that good problem that we've said we'd love to have. I mean, we've always talked about it, where we never have enough. Well, now we have it. I mean, we have Talon Maples, we have Tony Herbert, Abdi Muhammad, Arturo Astorga, Chris Gloucester, Seymour you could throw in there. I mean, our defense is stacked, and it's nice because when we pick up an injury, such as the Kalen Ryden injury, which I'm hoping he comes back sometime soon, we don't have to stress about, our defense is atrocious because we're missing Kalen or we're missing talent, or like we have what we need even on the bench. And then now with Abdi Muhammad getting his long-term contract through the rest of the season, I mean, the man deserves it. And Justin says it, pay that man his money. Reality, yeah, he should have got his paycheck soon. He played every minute of every match, which I believe was 426 minutes up until now. Fact checkers, fact check me if I'm wrong.
Pulling up right now.
Just pull up the email from David.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he played every minute, which I believe is 426, and he made impactful moves on defense, especially this past weekend. I mean,
270 in league play, then another 180 in Open Cup.
So what's the math?
450.
I was close.
You were close. I don't know where you got the 6 from.
I don't freaking know.
Hashtag Earl Math.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, Earl Math has been doing pretty good, so I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, so I mean, the dude came in and revitalized our struggling defense without Kalen, and took over the spot that we needed him to take over in order to relieve our defense of the headaches that they were having to figure out who's going to play where, who's going to play this spot, who's going to play that spot. Okay, we're going to plug in Herbert on the right side because Astorga's out. Okay, we're going to plug in Maples on the left side because Chris Gloucester picked up a knock. I mean, we were playing plug and play for the first couple weeks that we didn't know what to do. And then now that Abdi Muhammad came in, we don't have to stress about that.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, Earl, 6 players have played in all 10 matches. Who has the most minutes?
Maples.
There you go.
Oh, he hasn't played in all. Is it Maples?
Maples. He has played
Okay.
every minute of every league game this season.
Really?
Yeah. He's at 900 minutes.
And you know what? I'm go with that. I'm a huge. I mean, a lot of A lot of soccer heads watch soccer for the scores. My favorite's backline. I love defensive. I mean, that's my favorite thing. For the longest time, Justin Schmidt was my favorite player. And then when he left, it was Suggsy. And then when he left, it was Kalen. And now the Kalen's down and out. I'm kind of on Maples, and I'm high on that horse right now.
Mm-hmm. And to Justin's point, I'm assuming Justin's talking about Kalen. He's going to be doing better at the tailgate. We've seen Kalen. He's certainly moving without too much support. He is wearing a brace, from what we've been told. He is getting closer to returning. And again, this is going to be one of those conversations. When Kalen is back and match fit and ready to go, do you sit Talon? Do you sit Abdi?
I don't think so. I think when Kalen comes back, and it's a matter of when, I think you see Kalen and Talon in the middle. You'll see Abdi on the right or on the left, and Gloucester and Astorga switching off on the right. I'm super set with our back line, and then Herbert obviously comes in and plays his impactful role whenever someone needs a break.
Yep, there you go. I don't think it's a bad take at all. That conversation is one that we're certainly going to have here in the coming weeks once Kalen is match fit. One final note on Abdi Muhammad. He did make Team of the Week. So he did. So congratulations to him for that. Quickly, stat line, when he won 7 of 8 duels, won 2 of 2 tackles, and completed 36 of 50 passes against San Antonio FC. So another great performance by him. Great pickup by New Mexico United in this front office. It'll be interesting to see, just how his role continues to grow and evolve over the next few weeks. And just see, I believe that Abdi may end up being someone that we keep long-term beyond this year. I think it would be hard to say otherwise, or to expect otherwise, but I think he's going to be hard to keep if he keeps playing like this.
Oh yeah, definitely. He will definitely command a lot of attention this offseason. If he doesn't get long-term signed by us, which is a good problem for us, because then long-term signed, he then has that fee that they have to pay. That gets us more money to go find ourselves a new Abdi Muhammad.
Yep, that's certainly what we may need here in the future. All right, the other big piece of news coming out from the club this week: Open Cup draw for the quarterfinals has been set. Obviously, we were drawn in the West with Phoenix Rising, San Antonio FC, or not San Jose, Phoenix Rising, Seattle, and LAFC. We get LAFC on the road in July. Winner of that will go on the road to face the winner of Phoenix Seattle in August. Earl, what do you think about this? I mean, obviously we talked about the 3-0 win last week, but here we have an actual, thing to look forward to. What's your initial take on LAFC and, our chances in the quarterfinal round?
I mean,
that's sorry.
What do you think about MLS? When you think about MLS, you put a couple names out there. Obviously, Columbus Crew, Houston Dynamo, Galaxy, Seattle, and LAFC.
Sacramento, not Phoenix. My bad. I apologize.
And if you're Seth, then Atlanta's in that question too. But I mean, LAFC, I've liked them since day one. I wish I could make it. That'd be great to hear the sha la 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 la. But I'll have to watch it on TV.
Actually, Earl, you will not be watching it on TV. You'll be watching it on Apple TV.
Same damn thing.
We'll get into that here in just a second.
Regardless of where I'm going to watch it, I'm going to be watching it on my 75-inch TV. I don't give a shit where it's gonna be. It's gonna be on my 75-inch TV. I like this draw just because of the talent that we have matches up well with LAFC, which you would think that, oh, well, would probably match up better with Sacramento. I'm good with the LAFC because Sacramento, unless they play a cup set again, probably gets hit by Seattle hard. I think if we play Seattle, we get hit hard by Seattle. With LAFC, they're not the MLS perennial contenders that they were before in years past, but they definitely can play. So with that, I mean, we're gonna put out our starting lineup. We're gonna put up our A team like we've been doing, because every match in Quill's mind is a championship match, which I like. I'm hoping that LAFC takes us for granted and sends out their C squad or whoever. But at the end of the day, I'm looking forward to that match because of how we line up well with them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, some of the MLS sides took their first round of action a little bit more serious than others. One question, there are going to be some questions about their roster coming in. They do sit fourth in the Western Conference in MLS right now, and obviously we still have a little over a month to go until this match, so we're going to have a lot of time to look at it and digest it and make our predictions. But I think LAFC. I mean, I think at this point, the MLS clubs have to go for it. I think that if they do take their foot off the gas here, it's not a good look for them. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what their roster looks like, in the moment when it gets there, because obviously they have guys like Hugo Lloris and Olivier Giroud. Now I don't know if Giroud will be eligible or not. By the time that match comes around, I don't think he will be. I could be wrong, but the roster rules are interesting. And I was having some discussions about this with some United front office members, trying to determine who was and was not eligible for the NYC FC2 match, because there were some folks who were potentially on their match day roster that we questioned whether or not they were eligible or not. So, but yeah, so I think they have to take it seriously. And as Josh says, after they lost last year, there's more than likely a higher probability that they put out a top tier lineup. Yeah, that's what I'm not sure about Olivier and how his contract is and when he's going to actually start
I think he had said he was going to join LAFC after the Euros.
That might be right. Like I said, I don't know enough about the contract and the signing there. I do know he's signed. I'm pulling up their stuff here now to see if it says anything, but yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what could happen. So, and third, expected to participate in Euro 2024. Giroud could debut no sooner than July 20th. Okay, so yeah, so Giroud is out. I wonder. I'd be curious if Lloris is eligible as or not as well. So that could be a huge thing. If you see Hugo Lloris, if he's eligible, that's one thing. With Giroud not eligible, who knows? Who knows what could happen there? But yes, so we could not host the semifinals. We could host the quarterfinals. So it's no surprise that we got drawn where we did. We didn't have very many options. So, but I do want to ask quickly, Earl, before we get to Monterey Bay, Apple TV, U.S. Soccer and the Open Cup have decided to put the next 3 rounds of the tournament on Apple TV. Now, to be fair, it is free, but here we have to find yet another platform that we have to sign up for, at least have an Apple ID to watch it. When, and we've already seen US soccer, we've already seen YouTube, we've already seen, this is frustrating as a fan. This is frustrating as a media person. Like, I really wish it was back to what it was 2 years ago when ESPN Plus had every single friggin' match.
Yeah, I am 50-50 on this one. 2 years ago, ESPN Plus had everything. I mean, fuck, they had cricket. And then for whatever God-given reason, they decided to change their mind and they went a different route. But I'm not against it, because if you look up on Apple TV now, it's where MLS is already at. So a lot of the MLS teams are already, a lot of MLS fans are already watching Apple TV. So this might be the future of Apple TV taking over US soccer random, or as a whole, taking USL and taking MLS. I think that's what probably ends up happening eventually.
I mean, maybe. I mean, from what I've seen, they do put out a pretty decent product over on the platform, but
I mean, if you look at it, it's a big step for Open Cup as a whole, going from 50-50 YouTube and hoping that you can actually find the stupid match to being on their website and watching the match. I mean, jumping from their website to a mainstream streaming service, I'll take it.
So, best I can find about Apple TV, or at least the MLS Season Pass, apparently MLS Season Pass as of last year was around approximately 1 million subscribers. I don't know where it's at now. I'm trying to find some better numbers. So, I mean, yes, you look at potentially more eyes on the league, eyes on the tournament. So I think there are some benefits to it. I do think, there will be a good quality production, but I agree with Josh at the last minute, or randomly switch for the final 3 rounds. Bad idea. I don't agree with that. I think that's absolutely frustrating. It's been hard enough to find these matches as is, because they're unlisted on YouTube without going through and giving, MLS and US soccer your email address, which, whatever, they have my email address anyways. I'm going to keep giving it to them.
I was like, I've given my email address about 55 different times.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I already gave you my damn freaking name. Like, what do you want next?
Yep, exactly. And quickly before we move on, so here, pretty sure we had a deal in place to get in for the quarterfinal. The problem with this, Justin, is that the Isotopes are in town for both the quarterfinal and semifinal rounds. So playing at UNM more than likely wouldn't have happened. It most likely would have been Rio Rancho if we did get to host that match, because there's no way that we're going to get Isotopes and United all playing in the same location on the same night. It's just not going to happen. So
that, and I think that weekend is also the UNM Cherry Silver game.
David Wheatscroll could have played at UNM. Interesting. That's interesting. David, can you expand on that? Because I know in the past the club and the Isotopes have tried to avoid. Oh, it's at noon. Okay. Well, there you go. Straight from David Wheatscroll himself,
who is a employee of the club, by the way. David, bring that up because it was asked if you still work for the club, if you are living your retirement. We now have more questions asked of you, but we could text that some other day.
Yeah, we certainly have the questions. So, well, there you go. All I knew is they were in town. I did not look that in depth at the schedule. So yeah, I knew it would have been interesting to try to get that done. I think it would have been interesting to play LAFC at UNM That would have definitely been an interesting experience there for us and for LAFC as well. I can't imagine many of them have played on a field of that caliber in quite some time. So, yeah, well, there you go. Would have been nice, but we will be on the road for the next 2 rounds. So be watching for that. And lastly, before we get out of here, Earl, Monterey Bay, Sunday.
Hold on, we got a question on the chat. People stream on Facebook? Wild.
Oh, here we go. See, that's what I was hoping for. That's what I was hoping for right there, because Isotopes are out of season. We will definitely be able to host the final at Isotopes Park. There you go, guys. It's official. We are applying to host the U.S. Open Cup final. We're gonna have David put that in tonight so that we can get first crack at
put
that.
it in. What are you
Already
talking
put
about?
it
He already submitted that when we found out we were playing at LAFC. David said, "Cool. I appreciate that sentiment, but we'll put this one in right now."
There you go. Already done. Perfect. Can't wait to see what the hosting priority will be for the draw. Yeah, can't wait for that. So, but yeah, finally, before we do get, we do have to talk about Monterey Bay Sunday night game. Okay, so you look at Monterey Bay. I got to ask Earl. First of all, given their results this year in their recent form, Monterey Bay are winless in 5. They have given up 2+ goals in 4 or 5 matches. Are they a good team?
I'm gonna skip all the shenanigans, all the bullshit, and all the nonsense talk, and I'm gonna jump right into it and say 4-0.
There you go. Earl, give us a little bit as to why you think 4-0.
I mean, if you watch United at all this season, and if you don't, thanks for being here. We've played 2 MLS teams. We've came back from goal differences that were not in our favor, and we just continue to fight. We are definitely the better team than Monterey Bay. I'm not saying to take this game lightly. I still think we put out our A team and our starting lineup that we've seen week in, week out. But at the end of the day, I really think that with Monterey Bay giving up more than 1 goal more than 1 time, we are also itching for our more than 1 goal with a clean sheet attached to it. And I think the comment was the Wrecking Crew win. I'm trying to scroll back through the comments real quick. There's a lot of comments here today.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, where the hell is it? A win's a win, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so I would love to see a good, solid Wrecking Crew win at some point. I think with this one, we see it's time for a good, solid Wrecking Crew win of 4-0.
Hey, I don't blame you at all. I think it's a good shout. I think this is a match where we can go on the road and not be on the East Coast. And it's it's 5 o'clock kick, so that is something to keep an eye on as well. Monterey Bay, I don't think that they're as good as their record states. Obviously they had some decent results early in the season, but you look back at where they're at now and where those other teams are. I mean, Las Vegas not playing well. Phoenix is on the upswing, so that one looks pretty good. You look at the win over Memphis. So they've had moments where they've done well. Obviously that the win over Memphis stands out. The win over Rising looks good right now. But then you look at their losses. You look at the way that they've performed recently. 2-0 loss to Orange County, loss to Indy, another draw with Memphis, 3-0 loss to Loudoun, 2-1 loss to Hartford. They have struggled, and it's not just on the road. They've struggled at home too. They're 2-1-2 at home. This is a team that I think they'll come on later in the season as they find a rhythm and they really, come together a bit more than what they have already. But, you look at the talent, they've got Walmer Martinez, they got Rebayar, they've got, Maldonado. They did have to replace a lot of their forwards in the offseason. So they've had to make a number of changes. That being said, though, again, I don't think they're good enough. I'm gonna say 2-0 on the road. I think it's a perfect way to start off the month of June. And regain some of the road form that we're going to need throughout the rest of the season to maintain our current pace. So that's where I've got it. Earl, you've got to win. Before we get out of here, any final thoughts?
Nope. I don't have any final thoughts. It is before 9:00, so I think we just had a point that it's not us. It's the other guy that's not here right now that is the talker, and the rambler, obviously. But in reality, Jacob, we miss you. We hope you get better. Whatever may be going on. I know you had the flu right after a holiday. It's a little bit strange, but regardless of what's actually going on, miss you, buddy. Get better soon. We'll see you next week.
All right, well, there you have it, folks. You've got our predictions for this weekend against Monterey Bay. We had some discussion about LAFC. We also went back and talked about the win over San Antonio last week. A whole lot going on. If you're enjoying the podcast, please be sure to like, subscribe, and rate it on whatever podcast platform you choose to listen on, or whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're watching. Give us a thumbs up, a like, a heart, a share, whatever you can do to get the word out about what we do and New Mexico United, and as well as the Runners. Please continue to share that, continue to grow. We do appreciate all of you being here in the chat and listening later on many podcast platforms. So as Earl said, Jacob, get better soon, buddy. We hope to see you next week. For Earl, for Jacob, for myself, thank you guys so much for watching and for listening. And until next time, Somos Unidos.